everyone. Welcome back to the Israel Connection podcast. I'm Esti Zenati, and I have a very special guest today. My guest is attorney Ran Bar-Yoshafat. Hi, Ran. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, happy to be here. Thank you.
Ran serves in the Army Reserves in Combat Special Forces. From October 7 until now, he served over 250 days, serving in Gaza, northern Israel, Judea and Samaria, and more, back and forth in different places. He is the former project manager of the IJC, the Israeli Jewish Congress, and worked for the legal department for the Knesset. And he is also the former executive director of Kahelet Forum. Thank you again for joining us. It's a pleasure having you on the podcast today. So describe your October 7th. How did it start and how did everything progress from there?
So October 7th, for me, it caught me in a shul, synagogue in Jerusalem, as I was getting my aliyah because it was a few days before our wedding. And I woke up very early and I heard the sirens. Now, sirens in Jerusalem are very rare. You don't often have sirens in Jerusalem. After we heard the third, fourth, fifth sirens, like something is happening here, I went outside. I saw an officer that I know, a religious guy with his army uniform driving. So that's when I realized something is happening here. I quickly went into my apartment, and I'll open parentheses here for a second. I served in Maglan during the Second Intifada as a hand-to-hand combat expert. My first Army Reserves was the Second Lebanon War, and before October 7th, every year I served between 1 to 2 months in the Israeli army as a reservist. So I always had a duffel bag prepared for such occasions. So I went to my apartment, opened my phone, saw what is happening, or at least bits and pieces of what's happening in the south, and started heading south. Eventually, my battalion officer and the operational officer asked me to stop and join them, so it'll be more organized and not going independently to the south. And my main concern was at that time, my fiance, today my wife, what is happening in her mind, because she cannot communicate with me right now. We're both Shomer Shabbos. When Shabbat was finished, I was in an officers meeting trying to plan our next move, basically, in the south. So I was only able to contact her a while after. And my first question was, what are we going to do? Are we going to get married, or are we going to postpone the wedding? And it's an interesting question. And this question was actually asked 50 years ago during the Yom Kippur War. And Rav Eliashiv Zatzal said that for such an important question, only one person can give the answer, and that is the Kala, what the bride says. So I asked my wife, what do you think? And she says, we're going to continue with the wedding. So instead of having our big venue with a lot of people, I left the base on the fourth day of the war, got out of my army uniform, shaved, showered, put on my wedding suit, and we got married in a charity hall, a Yad Sarah hall with very few people.
Wow.
Yeah, and the next day I went back to war, leaving her behind. Yeah, so that was my October 7th. That was the setup for my war.
Yeah, and that seems to be a story of a lot of soldiers and reserves that, they're supposed to get married, they're supposed to give birth, like all these life-changing events that are supposed to happen during that time. And all of a sudden they find themselves in the battlefield instead of being under the chuppah or, having a breathe for their son. That's very challenging.
Yeah. So, actually, you mentioned exactly what happened to us. So yeah, at the end of my reserves, which is actually just a few days ago, more than 250 days, my wife was 9 months pregnant when I was sent to Gaza again. So in the beginning of the war, I spent 3.5 months in Gaza. My battalion was the second wave into Gaza, northern Gaza. And then I was sent to the north, Judea and Samaria, the north again. And now I was out of Gaza just a couple of days ago. And I left my wife 9 months pregnant. I think that was by far the most difficult part for me, to have my wife ask me, not in a angry way, just really trying to understand. So who's going to drive me to the hospital?
Right.
And thank God I was able to make it on time and was able to be with her in the birth, but it cannot be easy to be 9 months pregnant and having a husband at war, be here by yourself. She's a new Ola. She made Aliyah from
Oh, so that's even
States.
harder. Yeah.
There's no support, no financial support, and no system that helps her. So yeah, it was a very
Yeah, that's
yeah,
difficult. I know there are a lot of women that gave birth without their husbands next to them.
yeah.
And not even mentioning those who lost their husband in battle. That's really difficult. So how has your service in those over 250 days impact your professional life as well? Because I know you had some professional life changes that you needed to do because of all of that.
Well, obviously, first of all, I lost a great deal of money, and the government wants to compensate, and they're doing their best, but they cannot really. I'll give you just one example. I give in a year, let's say, somewhere between 50 and 100 lectures. I think I gave one.
Oh, wow.
That's not something I wasn't
Yeah.
available in every month since October 7th. Apart from 2 months after we were released, once I was in the army. So the government cannot compensate me for that. So a great deal of money that was lost. I was really close to finishing my PhD. I hope that I'll be able to finish it now because PhDs, when you're not continuing, if you're not moving forward, it's not that you're staying put, you're moving backwards. Because now
Yeah.
I have to remember what I was trying to write, over a year ago. And that's very difficult and it's very frustrating. I would really be happier if I would already have this behind me. The physical fitness, I used to do Ironman competitions. In the war, I gained a lot of weight. A lot of people are so surprised by that, but a lot of soldiers gained weight and lost their fitness, especially the Army reservists, because of stress eating, because of the fact that in the first few months, we weren't able to get normal food. There's no electricity in Gaza or running water. So basically, you're also limited, or roads that we were able to use. So the people who were actually doing the fighting, they weren't able to give us proper foods. It was mainly like candy and stuff like that. And after a few months of eating candy, that's, you're losing your shape.
Yeah.
And I told you the most difficult part was basically knowing that I'm putting so much burden on my wife that doesn't have not the financial support and not the family support that I'm not sure that would have helped completely, but it would have given a little bit of support. So that was the most difficult part. I was actually, I wanted to change my profession, not I don't know if change my profession, but leave my current workplace in November, but the war broke a month before, and I didn't even have the time to resign, and it was a real issue because I'm now trying to see if they can let me go because according to the Israeli law, you have to wait 3 months before you're fired. But they don't have 3 months of me not serving. They have a week here and a week there. It's like, okay, that's not fair for them. I
Right.
haven't done basically nothing almost nothing in the past year and a half, almost. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, a lot of people I know lost their businesses and lost their jobs because they've been serving so much, which is really unfortunate because it's not something that you guys control. It's the necessity. That's what the country needs.
True. I also heard that a few people were actually able to make profit here, but I think that that's really the exception to the rule. People who were people who weren't in the front lines, let's just put it like that, they were able to get salary from the army and also continue their daily work. That's really a drop in the bucket. Most people have suffered financially from this war, no doubt. Not just those who are in combat, also those who are either combat supporters or those who have a family member who's in the army. Now they have to take care of the household and are unable to work as they wanted to. Look, I'm not happy about it. It saddens me, but I think it's still a small price we're paying for our freedom. I just became a father 7.5 weeks ago, and I'm doing this because I don't want my son to be able to be forced to do the same thing in the future. I'm not that optimistic that he's not going to be able to or forced to do it, but I'll do my best so he would not have to face the challenges that I'm facing right now. So yeah, but it also gives you perspectives. Gaining some weight and losing a lot of money, it's a very small price to pay. I have friends that I lost, unfortunately, or they have lost body parts. And I think that if I took it in the right proportion, I was like, okay, so I lost money. Money comes and goes, and I think I'll be fine in the future.
Yeah, so you mentioned your son, like that you don't want him to go through the same thing when he gets older. I feel like our generation back in the day, our parents were like, "Oh, we hope that when you grow up, you're not going to have to serve in the IDF," but it just keeps going and going.
So I don't think that in the future you won't have to serve in the IDF. I think they will always have to, and I don't even think that's a bad thing because I think countries need to have armies. The problem is, and this is my understanding, and it could be wrong. This is just my perspective. You know the song of the Choref 73 is a very known song in Israel. Basically, after the Yom Kippur War, people were hoping for peace, and in that time, we were facing a different type of enemy, countries. I think that the people who are frustrated right now, regardless of their political views, they're frustrated because we're not winning, meaning they want to continue to fight. The soldiers on the ground, it's very, very different than to say, I wish you would have peace with this country. That's one solution, so I wouldn't have to serve so hard. Another solution is like, I want to defeat the enemy, so you wouldn't have to serve so hard in the future. And I think I wonder what song they're going to write about this war after this.
Hey, I don't know. There have been a few songs released this year that there's one that
superheroes
tells us that we're going to, shut down everybody, take care of everybody, so to speak. And then there are those who encourage the country to say, Am Yisrael Chai, and all these songs. So what were like 2 or 3 very impactful moments that you had or incidents that you had during your service?
So I'm going to, obviously the most important ones were getting married and becoming a father, but I'm going to put that aside. I had a very positive, I don't know if you can call it a positive experience, but a very moving experience that we found bodies of hostages.
Oh, wow.
And I asked the soldiers that were around me, I asked my soldiers, you are aware of the fact that we're staying here and we're risking our lives, and we knew that the chances of the hostages being alive are very slim. They were killed long before we got to them, like a month before we got to them. And I asked my soldiers, how do you feel about it? And they said, we're happy to be here. We're happy to serve, even if it's bodies of hostages, because the parents deserve to have a grave for their kids.
Yeah.
They deserve to have a closure. And obviously, I would prefer finding live hostages. But even bodies of hostages, it's something that was very crucial for us, and we put it in the top priority in our missions while we were there. I'm not sure it's a big political question if it's the number 1 priority for the war or the second priority to defeat Hamas. Should be, I don't know, it's a different question. I'm talking while I'm already there, and I have several missions. One is to destroy a certain building that we know it's a headquarter of Hamas, and another is to find bodies of hostages. It was clear for everyone that right now the main issue is to find the bodies of the hostages. Hopefully it was nobody. I was very surprised with the fact that people talk about the tunnels, Hamas's tunnels, and I think sometimes people envision like a very narrow tunnel that you have to crawl in. These tunnels are humongous, huge. You can have like 2 lanes of cars in these tunnels, gigantic tunnels.
Oh, wow.
The tunnels that we found the bodies at, it was a 2-layer tunnel, 2 floors. One was about
2-floor tunnel. Wow.
Tunnel. One was about 12 yards dug down under, and one was almost 50 yards dug inside, and it was about 2 miles long. It's a tremendous, and people also sometimes they envision the tunnel to be like a straight line. They build the tunnels very well. It takes turns, and you have like submarine doors in case we want to bomb it, so it'll stop. So they're very sophisticated in how they build the tunnels. You have control rooms in these tunnels. You have enough supply for years, gasoline and food and whatnot. So yeah, that was one incident that was very impacting for me. Another was when I lost a friend, Moshe Leiter, Shem Yikom Damo. He and a group of other soldiers came into a mosque. And I want to say something here. I haven't been to all the houses in Gaza, but I've been to a lot. And I don't have a single exception to what I'm saying right now. Not a single exception. Not 99%, but 100%. All the houses that I've seen in Gaza had either Nazi propaganda, anti-Israel material, explosives, rockets, weapons. I don't have not one exception, not even one. And it's very surprising, again, that I spoke to soldiers with different political views from different units, and they all share the same thing. Mosques, hospitals, and schools, it's to multiply it. Like we knew that when we're approaching a hospital or a school or a mosque, we knew it's going to be a lot more of that. So unfortunately, what happened was that Moshe was a company officer. He was approaching the mosque. The mosque had a camera attached to it with some sort of a wire that goes underground and a few hundred yards from that. And when they saw the soldiers approaching the mosque, they detonated the mosque, killing 4 soldiers and very seriously hurting the other 4 soldiers that were there. It was sad for me because I know sometimes people say, it's funny, it's coming from both sides. Some people are saying, why is Israel carpet bombing Gaza? And some Israelis are saying, how come we're not carpet bombing Gaza? And the truth of the matter is number one, we cannot carpet bomb Gaza. It's too many houses. We don't have the ammunition. If we had, we should save it for something else. Number two, it wouldn't do so good because most of our enemies are underground. So it's not a mission to destroy buildings. You do it because it's a necessity. And I think people don't understand this. When they see the ruins in Gaza, they're like, why did they ruin the houses? Because these houses used for terror. These are, and they say, all houses? Yes, all the houses. I've been to a lot of houses. That's what I've seen. If it's okay, I want to share 2 more stories. You know, you said 2.
Yeah, of course. Go for it. Yes, please.
I think these stories it's good that people will hear these stories. One story is this, because I know sometimes people say a lot of nasty stuff about the IDF. And now it doesn't mean that the IDF doesn't have soldiers that are misbehaving. And I condemn it, and it's not okay. And we actually talk about it usually in the officers before we have a mission. You know, some soldiers did graffiti. Okay. Here's my understanding of reality. We are in a house, or whatever is left of a house, and we're not eating well. We're eating tuna cans or Mentos candy for a while. And then we find in the house, a bag of flour and some olive oil. It's a very common thing to find in Arab houses. And then some soldiers say, let's make bread, or pita bread, and eat it and dip it in some olive oil. And some soldiers say, nope, you're not allowed to use it. This is not how we do it. We don't loot. And the soldiers say, you know, this house is going to be exploding in like an hour. Like, no one is going to use it. We're going to explode everything here with it, with the oil, with the flour. And other soldiers are saying, as long as we have convoys bringing us food, we should not touch the food. Now, I don't care about the moral decision that people have here. Some can say, you know, you're at war, you should eat whatever you find. Some say, you know, if you get tuna cans from the army, don't touch your flour. The fact that we're having this conversation in Gaza, it's not like me and you speaking right now when I have the neon lights above me. It's while we are hearing explosions. It's while Hamas is firing artillery at us, while you're hearing the AK-47 and the M16 firing at each other. Like, while we're having that, this is the discussion that we have. And I think this is really the true representation of what's happening in the IDF. The second thing I want to share with you, if I'll describe war later, maybe it'll be easier to understand, but people can imagine war is very stressful. You hear, there's noise 24/7, and it's dirty, and you don't shower, and it's very difficult to use the bathroom because there are no running waters. Food is not very well, and you're tired. So, and the smell of dead bodies is also, all of that is it's affecting you. So the high-ranking officers said, let's take one person from each team and send him for like a 16, 18-hour break. So that person will be able to be more refreshed, and that way we'll be able to preserve the energy of the teams. And I heard one team, which is a very unique team because everyone there are volunteers. They're all over the age of 40. I myself, I'm an officer, so I'm allowed to serve. I'm supposed to serve a little bit more, but I'm also fairly old for a reservist. I'm 41. And this team specifically, there was even a guy who's 50 years old in that team.
Wow.
And what was amazing is that I heard them arguing, but they weren't arguing because everyone was saying why he has to go, but they were arguing because everyone said why the other person has to go. So they told the physics professor, you have to go, your students need you. And he said, me, I have tenure, right? I'm fine. This guy just started a new job. He has to go. Says, me, it's just a job. This guy just had a new baby. Says, it's just one kid. This guy has 3 kids. And it was amazing to see the motivation that the people had. Like, no one enjoyed being there. They all have their lives. They all know that they're paying this, and no one can reimburse. No one's going to say, hey, Ran, here's the amount of money. Thank you for it. That's not going to happen. But they're there. They understand the mission. They understand the importance of this mission, and they care more about their friends than themselves. And I thought that was something was very remarkable.
It's amazing. Yeah. I mean, I guess everybody knows that the importance of them being there. and doing what they have to do. I mean, somebody has to do it, unfortunately, where, Israel is a country that always needed its army. And it's not like other countries in Europe or other places that they have an army, but it's not like needed like 24/7. In Israel, it's different. We need our army. We need our combats. And I think like since October 7th, it's been amazing to see as an Israeli, to see the motivation in the soldiers, in reservists who are not even 40-year-olds, like 50 and 60-year-olds that go and serve. And unfortunately, some of them got killed. And it's just incredible. It just shows you the strength of our people and their resilience and the quality of the people that go and serve and do all these things.
Yeah. It's also nice to see that all of the dispute and fighting that is going on in Israel the year before the war, you don't really see it when you're in the Army Reserves. It doesn't matter if you're religious or secular, right wing or left wing, like we know together there. So that's another thing that is amazing. And I know a lot of soldiers spoke about this. So what has this service meant to you? Or what is your service in general in the IDF has meant to you? I made a decision many years ago that I put the Army Reserves first. It hurts your daily life. It hurts you physically, not just the war. It hurts you physically. It hurts your finance. It hurts relationships. It hurts your ambitions to do all sorts of stuff. Hurts your career. And we have to remember, we're talking about tens of thousands of Army reservists. We have a country of 10 million people. Not a lot of people serve in the IDF. People forget this. People like imagine, because we know that in Israel, everyone serves in the army after high school. Okay, 10% go to combat. Not everyone has you don't have to be in combat to have a very meaningful service. Some people do an amazing job and not combatant. But it is a little bit different. And then in the reserves, it's a smaller group, and it's less than 5% if I count everyone who even said hello during the war. It's not that many people. And the people who are actually fighting, that's a lot less than 5%. That's close to 1 or 2% of the population who is actually basically taking the toll for everyone else. And those who were actually not just in combat, but were actually fighting in Gaza and in Lebanon and in Judea Samaria, we're talking about less than 1% of the country. So I think that there's a part of me that says, I kind of wish they would have a little bit more help. Because, I served a lot, I think, for a bit more than 270 days.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could have gotten like a month or two break in the middle, that would have been great for my physical fitness and for my job opportunity and for my PhD. But that's my decision. And my wife also knew it before we got married. She knew that for me, it's a priority with the prices we pay. It's not the IDF, unlike some armies in the world, it's not a professional army. It's a draft. And we do it, on one hand, it's a mandatory draft. On the other hand, people do it, especially in the Army Reserves, because of their motivation. Meaning there's not a single Army reservist that cannot be discharged from the Army Reserves if he or she wants to. All they have to say is I don't want to serve anymore, and they'll be discharged. And we're not getting paid. I mean, we are getting some reimbursement from the government, but usually you lose.
Yeah, it's not like a salary you would get in a job.
Yeah, even my employees, basically, they lose money whenever I'm in the army. But that's a decision, because the way I see it, if I don't serve and other people say that they don't serve, then we wouldn't have an army, and then we will all die.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So if I don't pay the price, I'll pay a much higher price.
Yeah, that's true. So you had several speaking engagements in the US after October 7th, but one in particular got some extra coverage because of what happened. You talked at UC Berkeley, and it was shut down because there was an angry mob of anti-Israel screaming and heckling you. So what happened there exactly?
So after my first round in Gaza, I went on a almost 2 months tour in America to share my experience. And I was meant to speak at a Jewish club in Berkeley. I've spoken in Berkeley before in 2012. I've spoken in many, many campuses in America. I think I spoke to over 100,000 students in America since I started doing Israel advocacy tours. This time was a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, what happened was that they had to change the location several times because apparently people wanted to stop me from speaking, which is quite interesting because Berkeley is where the free speech movement began in the 80s, I think, or before. So it was interesting, a little bit hypocritical. And I wasn't really allowed to even begin because the second I got there, rioters, I wouldn't call them protesters, I would say rioters came. They attacked the Jewish students who came to listen to me. Now, I'm going to assume that the students who came to listen to me are pro-Israel, but I don't even know. I don't know them. So they wouldn't even allow people to listen to me. They choke one Jewish student to the level that she was bleeding from her neck. They broke they broke a finger or a wrist of another Jewish student. They spat on another Jewish student, shouting at him, "You Jew, you Jew." They broke down the glass of the building. And eventually I had to be evacuated. And I was really also a very interesting way to do it. They basically took me downstairs in like some sort of underground building tunnel, whatever, opened the door and said, "Good luck, thank you, goodbye." And I was like,
so here, you fend for yourself.
Yeah. Like the second I got out of the perimeter of the building, like you're on the street, good luck. And I was like, I have no idea where I am. Someone drove me here. I don't.
Wow, it's crazy.
It was I think it's a very shameful event for the university. That they were unable to stop the attack. Two people who had their face covered with a kfiyah, they entered the hall and they started approaching me more and more and more. And the Jewish students, by the way, bravely stood between them and me. And then when whoever it was that was in charge of the security, and he said, "Please go," I was like, "I'll go," but these people are following me. Like, what do you want me to do about this? Like, there are two people here with face covered, trying to get close to me. Like, should I engage? What am I supposed to do in this situation? One professor, I'm very sorry, I forgot his name, but he really stood up for me. He's definitely not someone who shares my stand on many issues, but he said that he's gonna stay in his office until they let me speak in Berkeley. So I really appreciate that.
Oh, wow.
And he stayed in his office for, I think, almost 2 weeks, basically sleeping there, eating there, having all of his meetings. Like he says,
That's impressive.
Very impressive. I was very surprised to see that I did get a lot of support after that. And eventually someone asked me, I still don't know till today who this was, if I'm willing to speak there again. I said, of course. So they flew me back. I was already in New York. They flew me back to the Bay Area to give a talk. This time I had 4 bodyguards and 50 security guards or something for a conversation. And I only had one heckler in the middle of the talk. So I'm happy that eventually I was able to go back there. I'll tell you what is interesting. There's a fairly famous video of me when I spoke at UC Davis in 2012. And there's a student there who's harassing me and saying, "How many women have you raped? How many children have you raped? You're a child molester." It's okay. That's
the usual stuff they say. Yeah.
So, but that was bad for him because people allowed me to speak. So I get it when you're coming and you're talking about Israel, you're guilty unless proven innocent, which is annoying, but that's the reality. I don't think it's fair, but I'm willing to, I've learned to accept it. What was interesting here is basically what they're saying is you're guilty and you don't deserve a trial.
Right.
For me, makes it a much greater issue than an Israeli issue or a Jewish issue. It's basically the collapse of Western values. Like, okay, you think I'm so horrible? Okay, can we have a dialogue? Because if you're not even willing to, I'm accused of being a genocide, of supporting a genocide. There's an organization called CARE. They took my most peacenik Facebook post ever, where I wrote something like, most people are normal. Most people don't really want to kill, innocent people. No one thinks that a baby or an 80-year-old grandma is someone that we should kill. We want to only hurt the terrorist. We don't think that we should have the same ratio. We have a ratio of like 1,500 terrorists for one captive.
Civilian,
Civilian is me referring to Gilad Shalit. No one thinks this should be the death toll. So basically, here took this sentence and said, Ran says we need to kill 1.5 million people in Gaza. Like,
oh my God.
And I got canceled, by the way, in a high school in California because of that. I was like, you literally took my most like, hey, we only want to hurt terrorists. And they took this post and they like
Yeah,
twisted
they
it.
always find a way to twist things
Yeah, it's
to
just funny.
match their narrative, and yeah, it doesn't
I
make
have
sense.
I have much more hawkish like comments. They really took my most like, hey, let's just remember that we only want to hurt, the bad guys. And anyways, so it was very annoying. So that's one of the triggers for the people who were protesting. They're saying, no, Ran supports a genocide, so he shouldn't be allowed to speak. No, not just support. Ran commits a genocide.
Yeah.
They didn't even ask me if I shot my gun once while I was in Gaza. Some people, their army service is supposed to be to help the population in Gaza. Not my personal army service, but some people did. They wouldn't even know about that because I put you in a box and that's it. That's where you are, and you're not allowed to defend yourself.
Yeah, to them, even if you serve in the kitchen, cooking food for IDF soldiers, as long as you're in the IDF, that you're killing children, you're doing this and that. Yeah, no logic whatsoever. And that organization you mentioned, CARE, they're despicable. Like the things they do and say against Israel, and it's horrible. And people take them as if they're like this great thing.
Their support for the actions of Hamas during October 7th, before people even knew how many women Hamas has raped in the south of Israel, they were already condemning Israel for what is happening.
Yeah. All right. What message would you like to send to the Jewish community in the diaspora and the non-Jewish world also?
So two different messages. Because I do feel like the Jewish communities in the diaspora, they wanna help. Mm-hmm. In every lecture I've given, I always heard someone from the crowd saying, "What can we do?"
Yes.
And I'm very sad to say that I was right. And I told them, you need to take your time because this is a marathon and not a sprint.
Right.
And I can say that I certainly feel this in Israel. And I also feel it a little bit in America now, that people care less. Like people are just, they're tired. So a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, I went to a bakery and I wanted to buy something, and the guy says, "No way, this is on me." Well, I came super dusty. I came from an army operation in Gaza. I still had all my gear on me, and I just wanted to buy like some pastry. I was hungry. He's like, "No way, you're not paying. You just take care of yourself." So it was actually very heartwarming. These small gestures, it's maybe $5, but it makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside, because it means that they care and they appreciate what you're doing. But you feel less and less of this in Israel. And I think you also feel less and less of this in America. For instance, when I flew to America after my first round in Gaza, everyone was like, "I want to hear your stories today." When I have like Gaza, Lebanon, Shem, Lebanon, Gaza, it's like, okay, I mean, we had enough soldiers speaking here, which is okay. I get it. So my message for the world jury is, it's long. It's not gonna end now. It's a long battle.
Yeah.
For the non-Jews, I would say that they should really understand that Hamas has perfected the art of deception, lies, manipulation. Really, using civilians as human shields is not something that he didn't do before, but today they've taken it to the next level. It's very rare that you would see someone in Gaza with a weapon, because they don't need to, because every house has a weapon. It's very common that you will see a child carrying elderlies, moving them from one side to the other of the street, going back and forth to move people. They're cynically exploiting our morality and compassion, and they've turned the battlefield into a world where they deliberately distort everything that they do, and the world swallows that. And I think it's just basically it's part of their strategy campaign to make Israel look bad, and that's part of their warfare. So that will be my message to the non-Jews, because that's what Hamas is. That's what they do.
Yeah. So don't believe anything Hamas tells you, and dig deeper and try to research things before you believe.
I'll give you two examples. So in my last deployment in Gaza, I have like a bot to translate from Arabic to Hebrew, just to make sure I understand what I'm reading. Mm-hmm. And they say, with great success, we just killed 50 IDF soldiers in this area where I was.
Okay.
It was like, not only is there no one injured or dead, we weren't even attacked. So I went and already was like, did I just miss a gigantic event that happened that no one told me about? Nothing happened. So they lie like this on one hand. On the other hand, they're able to say, I have a drone. The drone shows me the picture of someone. I know who that person is. I know his name. I know what his position is in Hamas. Like I know this is the company officer of Hamas in that battalion that's in charge of this in this area. This is what he's done in October 7th. Like I have all this information. The IDF kills that person, and then you hear, the IDF just shot a pregnant 80-year-old kid, whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. Like, come on. Like, what just happened. Why? That doesn't make any sense. So yeah, they've really taken it to the next level of deception.
Yeah, the weird thing is that even the U.S. government releases information about that, the fact that Hamas lied, and they admit to lying. They found, documents showing how much they lied and added extra number of people, and said it was women and children instead of the men terrorists that died, and people still buy into it. It's just ridiculous. But,
yeah,
that's the power of propaganda, I guess.
And they're doing an amazing job with this propaganda. Really,
yeah, I mean, if there's one thing they're good at, it's PR.
I can only envy their ability. Like I just don't think it'll work with us, because I don't think we lie the way that they lie. But really, they've mastered the art of this manipulation. I want to make this clear. It's not that they build tunnels underneath the schools and the mosques. It's that they build a tunnel system, and on top of that, they build mosques and schools and hospitals.
Right.
There's a video that you can find that the IDF has released when we were in an UNRWA school, and we found a sniper rifle inside a teddy bear. Like, really, we've taken it to the next. It's just one example of a bazillion of examples. What is so amazing is that we have videos. We have pictures. Like, we really try to make sure that, don't touch anything before you make sure that it's on tape and whatever. That's not going to convince those who want to hate us, but at least for those who are interested in hearing, they can see it. So yeah, that is a cynical use. Yeah,
you even see it like now, these past couple of weeks with the release of the hostages, that how they set up this whole stage area with signs, and they even have a lady throwing glitter at the Hamas soldiers, which is absolutely ridiculous. And they stage this whole thing and give them like a certificate of release and a goodie bag with some, I don't know, it's just insane. And then people are like, oh, you see, they treat them well. They're so nice to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how you can treat someone well that you kept hostage in tunnel for, over 470 days.
Yeah.
So lastly, we're going to do a little thing that I do. It's called my favorite Israeli thing.
Okay.
What is your favorite childhood memory in Israel?
Good question. I need a second to think about it. My favorite, then how young do I need to be?
However young you want to be, doesn't matter. Just something that comes up to mind that you used to do.
Yeah, as a kid, I think I spent a lot of my childhood going to the beach.
Which one?
It's a Chofa Marina, or as its slogan, the handicap beach in the Marina Herzliya. Yeah, I spend a lot of my time basically going to the beach, running there, hanging out from elementary, not elementary school, let's say from middle school.
Okay, and all right, what is your favorite Israeli food?
So my favorite Israeli food is not Israeli. I will say this. I will say that hummus is better in Israel than any other place in the world.
Yes.
I would say that I've been to New York and I was not impressed with New York pizza. I think that we have in Italy they had amazing pizza, but in Israel I think we have good pizza as well. The only thing we're really not good at is sushi, which is quite amazing because we're the third in the world in sushi per capita. But
yeah, people love sushi in Israel, but the sushi is not the best.
I hate to admit it, it's not so great.
Yeah.
I guess I would say yeah.
What is your favorite Israeli historical figure?
Professor Ben Netanyahu, Netanyahu's father.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Why is he your favorite?
So my PhD, which hopefully will finish, is about the Zionist revisionist movement in America.
Mhm.
Jabotinsky died in America in 1940 in August, and Netanyahu's father took a lot of his work on him and continued the basically. So Netanyahu's father, Professor Ben-Zion, he published something in the New York Times that I take in heart whenever I feel that I'm not happy with the Israeli army. Because Israelis like to complain, and I think rightfully so, about things that we experience. And basically, he published a big, this is in 1942, and he published this in the New York Times, and it says, Jews fight for the right to fight.
Mhm.
And I admire that. And I think that whenever I complain, I'm like, okay, but at least I can fight. Like, at least, with all of the annoyingness and I'm losing money and whatever, I can take my M16 and I can defend my family and friends. Like, I have this ability. My grandparents did not have this ability. So the fact that I am able to do that, that's what I'm taking with. Yeah.
Right. And it's important, especially the other day was International Holocaust Remembrance Day. And, they did have a few smaller groups that were able to get together and fight the Nazis. But it wasn't like a big army, like we have right now in Israel that can protect the people. It's different. So it's really important that we do have it. And lastly, what is your favorite Hebrew word or expression?
It's a good question. My favorite expression. I don't know. It's not
Like a Hebrew word, like a word that you like that you use a lot.
So I use sababa a lot, but that's like the Israeli version of someone saying like. Not very good. I need to think about it. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know.
We'll go with sababa.
It's not really in Hebrew.
Well, yeah, sababa is in Hebrew.
It's Arabic originally, if I'm not mistaken.
Really, sababa?
I think so. Could be wrong, but as far as I'm aware, it's originally from Arabic.
No, interesting. I didn't know that. All right, well, Ran, thank you so much for being here today. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And hopefully people will take what they need to take from our conversation and from your story.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me in your show.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening. Until next time.